Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request. And for those, by the way, for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, re-reviews, what have you, tier list, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or draw my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And before I get started, the title is not a joke. It's not me trolling. It's not me lying. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm very cynical on movies. I'm very pessimistic on movies. Because I think a lot of times they're, personally, in my opinion, fairly bad or unentertaining. Or for various reasons. There are some stuff I like. And what do I always say? I want to be surprised. Surprise me. Creed 3 was that. If you were to ask me at the beginning of the year that I would dislike a John Wick film but like a Creed film, I'd go, yeah, you mind. But I'm not going to sit here and lie. That's the thing with my reviews. Some people just assume that no matter what, I will never change my mind, or no matter what, I just will never, ever, ever. You know, I had one guy say in my John Wick 4 review, well, you went in one to hate it. I'm like, no, I didn't. For the past year, I was actually looking forward to the film and said in streams how much I look forward to it, but I was very disappointed in that film. Creed 3 is the opposite. I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't like Creed 1. I don't like Creed 2 at all. I hate the first two Creed films. I do. And I'm a big Rocky fan, but I hate the first two Creed films. The first one I thought was just a regurgitation of the first movie with bits of Rocky Balboa. The way they made the Adonis Creed character, he was very unlikable. Creed 2 was riding the nostalgia train of Rocky 4, in my opinion. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just go watch the original Rocky 4. I liked Creed 3. Now, is it as good as, say, Southpaw with Jay Gyllenhaal, or Gladiator with Cuba Gooding Jr. back in the day, or some of the older Rocky films? No, I'm not saying that. But I think this is a legitimately good movie that I don't really find anything that egregiously bad. Except maybe one or two things, which I'll get to. Now, why is that the case? Number one, I thought they made Creed an actual character in this movie. I thought Michael B. Jordan actually stepped up a bit in terms of acting. I thought they actually delved more to the Adonis Creed character instead of having just daddy issues. Showing this backstory when he was a kid. I liked that they added a bit more to the character. I thought we saw him a bit more as a loving dad because his daughter's grown up and she's deaf, and the way he interacts with her using sign language, and he seems more loving with his wife, more teasing. Oh, you just want me to take my clothes off? Oh, is that what it is? It felt, Michael B. Jordan felt more comfortable in this movie. The villain, Jonathan Majors, I thought if you have to do a sympathetic villain, this was the right way to do it. Because a lot of times those are done poorly or just, give me a break, oh brother. And Rocky films have great antagonists, which Mr. T, Clubber Lang, Ivan Drago, hard-hitting villains that, like, fuck those guys. I will say this, and people demand me, this was a better version of Tommy the Machine Gun and what they're trying to do in Rocky 5. Because Rocky 5 I have issues with. I don't hate the film, but I don't love the film either. I think Rocky 5 is a very flawed movie. And I'll say this here, I like Creed 3 more than Rocky 5. Because I think Creed 3 is more of a legitimately good movie. Rocky 5 has... The word print is better, but I'm judging the theatrical cut because that's the cut that was released to the public. Stallone's performance isn't that great. Tommy the Machine Gun, I don't hate him. It's just he wasn't the best actor. And great fighter, but they didn't give him much for a character. And I didn't care for the whole losing all his money, going back to square one. That still bothers me. So I don't hate Rocky 5, but the word Parentheses is better. But this, I thought the fight scenes were well done, well choreographed. Apparently, Michael B. Jordan, who directed this, had a bit of anime influence. Okay, cool, because that made the fights seem a bit more refreshing. And I thought the way they were edited, and I thought the usage of slow mo was very effective. Jonathan Majors, what I liked about him is his undercurrent of seething and anger, but it's not too on the nose and one note. It's not a one note villain. I disagree with people saying he's nothing special. Just like, what else are you going to do for an opponent? If he was just the typical, I will fuck you up, we've seen that many, many, many times before. And yeah, if you're going to do it, let me start with the plot of the film. We go back to LA 2002. Adonis is a kid with his buddy Damian. And Damian is kind of the older brother he's looking up to. They were at a place where there was a caregiver and they, like a little home for kids, and they had each other. Damian won the Golden Gloves in 30 seconds, and it seems like he's going to go up the ladder. But then one night they go to a liquor store. Adonis sees this guy, Leon, and goes up and beats the hell out of him. Cuts to present day. We find out later what that was all about. And that may be understandable on both sides. And that's what made the story interesting. I thought it was an interesting story. Because at first it cuts to 15 years later, and we see Michael B. Jordan in a fight with a guy. It's supposed to be Michael B. Jordan's retirement match. And the way it was done was, I thought, well edited. The way they're going back and forth, and the boxing scenes, and I thought it was well filmed. Him seeing the weak spots and seeing in slow motion, almost a little bit like Sherlock Holmes, the movie, a little bit like that. Able to get the sides. Apparently that was a reference to an anime, which I looked online and I could see the correlation. But hey, it looked very cool visually. I'm like, okay, interesting. Let's see where this is going. And during retirement, again, it makes me, lo and behold, actually grow to like the character. Because he's being nice with his daughter and learning the sign language because his daughter's deaf, and they have like a playful back and forth. Being silly for his daughter. Trying to be a good dad. Okay, I'm going to be silly wearing this costume and the tea party because it'll make her happy. Oh, he's going to be loving with his wife. His wife doing some recording in the studio. Is like, oh, you want me to undress? Huh? Is that way you want me to get naked? Huh? Like, oh my God, wow. That's what I wanted. Make him a bit more likable. And Stallone not being in this is a catch-22. It's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. I'll get to the bad thing in a minute. But it's a good thing because Creed 3 makes it feel more like a standalone. Other than the reference to Rocky mentioned by name or Apollo mentioned by name, it's very much its own. It's not ripping off other Rocky films. The story is its own. For the most part, the plot is its own. That's for me. It didn't feel like, let's just copy this and this and this from a Rocky film. I didn't feel that. Unlike the first two Creed movies. So the fact it was its own story, it was its personal story, and the step out of the shadow of Stallone and all that. And I know Stallone did not do the film because of the Ern Winkler owning the rights, and for honestly, it had nothing to do with Michael B. Jordan. It had all to do. I guess it's catch-22. There's certain scenes that Rocky's character should have been there, and it makes no sense. Like, at least explain dialogue why he can't be in there. His grandson is sick, or something like that. As pithy as it may be. That's one of my few drawbacks on the film. But on the flip side, like I said, it's a catch-22. Because he's not in it, it makes me feel like, okay, there's more of just a standalone movie. And during retirement, he owns a gym. There's this new fighter named Felix who's going to fight Drago. Because it made sense. Like, when these fighters did one fight, it's not like they lose one fight and then they disappear forever. They are still in the mix of the fighting circuit. I mean, boxers don't just quit. They fought one fight. Nope, you never see him again. It makes sense. So, yeah, the Drago's son, I know there's no Dolph Lundgren, which is fine. I don't need Dolph Lundgren in the movie. But he's going to be ready to fight this Felix guy, and then Jonathan Majors, who was Kane in Ant-Man Quantumania movie. I know there's allegations, but for what I last heard, they were false allegations, and they were bullshit allegations. So, until I know otherwise, and I do think he's a good actor. Because the way Jonathan Majors plays Damian, he could play a very on-the-nose, like, over-the-top, you never saw me in prison. No. He's very kind of easygoing. Hey, how's it going? It's been a while. You know, he's smiling, being nice to Adonis's daughter and wife, and playing it cool. And hey, you know, could I maybe, you know, get a shot at your gym? You know, blah blah blah. But you look at the guy's eyes, and you just see the pain, and you just see a certain seething under it. You just see a certain undercurrent that things may not be as copacetic as we're led to believe. And that's what made that character interesting. Because he had this personal connection with the lead. And it made for a different dynamic than I'd seen in a Rocky film or a Creed film. And that made me this kind of this simmer of when is it going to boil over? When is the boiling point going to reach? Because you find Adonis has a bit of guilt for Jonathan Majors. Because spoiler, what had happened. Spoilers. Because I have a feeling either you've seen the film or you're never going to want to see the film. I think it was a nice surprise of a movie. But you find out when they were kids, Adonis had beaten up this guy Leon because this guy Leon was an abusive caregiver to Adonis, and I think even Damian, when they were kids in this, I don't want to say foster home, but this kind of group care until they got adopted. And you saw flashes of this guy, not too much to go overboard, but you see enough to get the point of this guy was an angry individual that would beat Adonis and them. You see enough of it, but not too much to overwhelm, but enough to get the point. And so you look at Adonis, I understand why he did it. Oh yeah, I'm not so small now, huh? And hits the guy. After a couple times, a bunch of other guys were getting up and beating on Adonis. And hey, I would beat on that Leon guy as well. I don't blame Adonis for doing that. I would absolutely do that to that Leon guy. He's getting beat on, and his friend Damian pulls out a gun to steer them off. Doesn't shoot anybody, doesn't do anything, just, hey, get off him. Lo and behold, the cops come. Adonis is scared, doesn't know what to do because he's just a little kid. He runs off, like he doesn't know what to do, he runs off, and Damian gets arrested and put in jail for 18 years. Thus, his life, his dreams, his hopes are all gone. And it explores that way of pain, it explores that way of forgiveness. And, you know, the critiques I hear, you know, well, why did Adonis go to jail to see him? Well, number one, you find out that his mother hid the letters and admits that was a mistake. But she says she hid the letters because I thought he'd be a bad influence. And she even admits, yes, that was a mistake. Number two, he was a little kid, and with that guilt or whatever awkwardness, that's the whole point of the film, is that it was understandable on all fronts, and it's not really anybody's fault. When you're like, what was it, 12 years old or whatever, you're scared to death. It's just a bad shit situation that happened. It made me feel for both of the main characters, but understand their point of view as well. And the whole movie is about Adonis's guilt and apologizing, and which he does apologize at the end, and that's why he's giving them all these chances. And that's another critique. People go, well, why does... It's supposed to be Drago and this new guy, Felix. Drago gets assaulted by someone. He's hurt. We need someone for this venue. If we don't, we're going to lose a shitload of money. We don't know who else to get. And so Adonis says, okay, fine, I'll have my old buddy Damian. And people in the movie even go, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. Look how old he is. Like, the critiques people have, they say it in the movie. But on the flip side, look at Rocky in the first film. Rocky fought a couple bums, and then boom, he gets a title shot. Mainly for Apollo Creed and the big guys, Big Cheese's choice. And really the only reason he did it was because he was called the Italian Stallion. Sounds like a damn monster movie. Underdog, whatever that case. Hell, I mean, it wasn't for the title, but look at CM Punk. He went into MMA, UFC, got some big fights. Wasn't for the title, but big fights. CM Punk never fought anyone. Because wrestling's not the same as UFC. And there's a lot of people that probably had a lot more experience, and they still haven't gotten pay-per-view fights, let alone two of them. So that shit happens more often than people think. Yeah. So yeah, I don't agree with those criticisms. And I think Michael B. Jordan has some nice looking shots. Like when Damian is ready to fight Felix, there's a shot where he comes in, Adonis, and says, hey, hope everything goes well. And they both leave, and there's a wall between them. And maybe that's on the nose, but I thought it was well placed shot, where they're both leaving, but they kind of stand and kind of look awkward. And yeah, that's on the nose, but I get what it was going for. They are two sides of the same coin. Damian, the way I looked at it, Adonis would have been the same as Damian if Adonis had not had his wife, his daughter, and Rocky. And when the fight happens, again, I thought it was very choreographed well. Them going back and forth. I thought it was well shot. It wasn't confusing. And it's like some of the better boxing choreography I've seen in a while. It was very well done. But then you start seeing the cracks where John the Major starts fighting dirty. He uses an elbow. This is that. And, Michael B. Jordan notices this. Like, what the hell? And knows there's something else going on. And then, spoiler alert, Jonathan Majors wins. Fucks up Felix. Knocks him out. He's the champion. He got what he wanted. And even when Creed confront him, the way Jonathan Majors played is that like he's gung-ho about it, but there's a bit of pain in his eyes. It's a very hard thing to describe. I thought the way he portrayed, like, I get where these characters are coming from. on both sides, and that was makes the story interesting for me, because I to see both sides. I could see being as pissed off as Jonathan Major's character was and why he was vindictive on it. On the same time, I could feel why Adonis, you as a kid being scared, because not in the same situation, but I've been in similar situations. I'll say that, so I know the feeling. And it's one of those things where I think the story just worked very well. Now, last time I'll say spoilers, heavy spoilers. There's three things that bother me about the film. Number one, the music. I'm not big on the music, maybe because I'm not a big rap guy. So the rap at the beginning of the film, the show in the flashback, when you have the training sequence and the rap song happening there, I'm not big on. Okay, you don't want to use the Rocky theme, I get it, because that's Rocky's theme, that's not Creed's theme. But it just, the song used, I like the editing of the montage, I thought it was very well edited. They did a nice job editing back and forth between Adonis and Damian. Again, I just wasn't a big fan of the song. I wish it was a better song. I think that would have worked out even. Like the beginning with the. I didn't mind the beginning part with the. Piece like the score. But the actual song wasn't big on. Also, they throw this subplot in where the mom has had issues with a stroke, and she finally does have a stroke, and she dies. I don't know if you need that in there, but on the flip side, that is a big part of this whole franchise, because Mickey died in part two. Part three. Mickey died in part three. Poetry died in part four. The audience died in part five. Adrian died in Rocky Balboa. Paulie died off screen, Creed or whatever. So now the mom has that. So it's like, well, we gotta have someone die. I don't think that was needed, but I do think Michael B. Jordan's performance when he's with his mom is very nicely done and emotional. And also, like, they show a bit of the funeral and Rocky's not there. No, that's not Michael B. Jordan's fault. Stallone said no because of Ern Winkler and that whole shebang. And granted, they're not showing the whole funeral. They're not showing the whole thing. They just show a little bit and a little bit of him carrying the casket. As if, like, to hide a bit of that. But I'm like, come on, Rocky would be there at the funeral. And Rocky would be there at the big fight at the end. It would. That's why it was catch-22. On one end, it's nice that Stallone's not in it, because that way I'm not just remembering the older Rocky films that can stand on his own 2 feet. On the flip side, there's a couple little plot scenes that I'm like, I don't know, this is Rocky would be there, and this is only happening because of the whole thing between Stallone and Ern Winkler, not because of the movie. When Michael B. Jordan confesses to his wife what happened and what happened in the past, he finally opens up about his feelings. Although that was a nice emotional scene by Michael B. Here's the thing about Michael B. Jordan. Back in the day when I saw like Chronicle, I'm like, oh, I like this guy. I look forward to what this guy does. But then when I see Creed and Creed 2, and I forget what the other movie was, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Oh, Black Panther. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really impressed by this stuff. This showed me a little bit again what he could be capable of. Maybe there's some type of correlation that he directed this one. I don't know. And then so that again, that's my little issues. I don't know if you need the mom to have a stroke and die. Because of the shenanigans going on behind the scenes, Rocky would be there in certain scenes. him not being there and not having any dialogue or reasoning as to why he's not. It's a bit weird. Again, that's not Michael B. Jordan's fault, but maybe again he could have just added a line of dialogue or something. And number three, like I said, the music. Not big on the music. Although it was as ridiculous as the first Creed, where he's fucking training and it sounds like Sergio Leone. It sounds like a fistful of fucking dollars. So it wasn't that bad. I'll give it that. So of the Creed films, I would say this is the best of the training and fight scenes in the Creed films. And also the way the last fight was done, I like that he took the chance to do something different visually. Which, I mean, with how many boxing films there are, good, change it up a bit. Because he's fighting, and it's really good back and forth. Each one get their hits in. It's not just one gets hit 80% of the time, and then one gets 10% in. They have a good back and forth. Each getting their good hits in. And then Michael B. Jordan starts playing with the visuals, which some people may not like, but I thought was, again, refreshing. So, as they're fighting, the audience disappears. And you don't hear the crowd or the music. You just, the sound effects of them fighting go back and forth. I'm like, okay, I get what he's doing, because this is a more personal. It's not about the crowds, it's about the two of them. And it's playing a bit with the color scheme. And there's even a bit that he flies back and he hits like a cage behind him. A cage pops up. I'm like, okay. I get what Michael B. Jordan was doing in terms of it's the frame of mind of the character with this guy, his guilt, everything that happened. That's what I'm talking about. It actually builds on the character instead of just the daddy issues, cocky asshole daddy issues. I felt more with the character, his psychosis of what's going on at that moment. They developed it more. And I think that's for the better and the benefit of the movie. And even after the fight, they have a nice talk afterward. It's not just completely forgotten. It's simple. It's effective. Adonis apologizes. Damian says it wasn't your fault. We were kids. Wasn't on you. And Adonis says, well, it wasn't your fault either. I think both actors do their jobs well. I think it would have been nice if he took maybe Damian out to the public and maybe, I don't know, start a little bit of an apology tour, so to speak. Maybe that'd be too corny, I don't know. But yeah, I just thought this film was a nice, pleasant surprise. I thought this was a film that... Here's my point. If I complain about this stuff, that means I want it to be better. But then if I don't ever showcase when it's better, which is in the eye of the beholder, of course, then what the fuck is the point of me bitching about stuff? You know what I mean? So there are people that say, oh, you're just trolling, or you're just lying. Is this an April Fool's joke? Is that April anymore, Matt? No, if you get mad at me if I hate something, or if you get mad at me if I like something, then why are you around? So yeah, I thought this was a nice, pleasant surprise. I have nitpicks and issues, sure, like I mentioned before, but Creed 1 and 2, what do I want to improve? I want him to be a more likable character. I thought this film did that. I want a more interesting villain. I thought this film did that. Because I don't even remember the fucking villain in Creed 1. Creed 2 was just a regurgitation of Rocky 4. Sorry, I'll just watch the real Rocky 4. I mean, even as much as I like Rocky Balboa, Mason the Lion Dixon isn't really that interesting of a antagonist. If you really think about it. And in Time of the Machine Gun, I liked that guy. He was a great boxer. He died way too soon. Can I really say he was the best actor, or they really did a lot with his character? No. I never really felt them as him and Rocky as buddies. But I don't think he was awful either, like some people do. So I would say this is probably the best villain the franchise has had since Rocky 4, and a different type of villain. I don't want Ivan Drago Part 2. I don't want Clubber Lang Part 2. So yeah, I would say this is the best, I keep saying villain, but antagonist since Rocky 4, for being honest. I want the actors to step up. They did. I want the fight scenes to be well edited for a boxing movie. They are. Again, I just wish you changed a bit of the music. Again, I'm just... There's some rap songs I like. This, not so much. I actually would prefer the training montage. If you're not doing... Fine, you don't have to do the Rocky theme. But at least just have some other instrumental. I think instrumental works better, or would have worked better. They had a little bit of instrumental that I like, but I think the whole training montage, if it was instrumental, would have worked a lot better. That's just my opinion. But yeah, overall, I did like Creed 3. It was a nice surprise. I know a few people wanted my opinion on it. There were Tomas, Centered Views, and a few others. I'm not going to lie and do a rant just for views. Never have, and I never will. If I like it, it's because I like it. If I don't, it's because I don't. And by the way, for those who ever go, well, he'll never change his mind, he wouldn't want to hate it. I thought I was going to hate this film because I hated the first two Creed films. I want to be surprised. There you go. See you later. Bye-bye.